The Transformation Update and Information Technology Annual Report from Gary Allen.
Thank you, Chairman and board members, for the opportunity to give you an update on our activities over the past year. I'm going to focus, move quickly through this and hopefully catch some time back up for the overall session, but focus on two major areas. The first one being the efforts that we are continuing to exert to standardize our student systems across the 4 universities. Last fall, President Choi provided a name of Project Unify for student success for our collective efforts in the student space. And the objectives are listed here on the slide, and it includes more than simple technology fixes, but actually alignment of policies, processes, and standards across all 4 of the universities, together with academic dates. Given his comments this morning and those of Vice President Rapp earlier, clearly this is critical for us to be able to increase and maintain student enrollments across the 4 universities. So we have focused specifically on 3 major categories of tools that are listed here. A customer relationship management tool called Slate, used on all 4 universities. A learning management system, Canvas, and our student retention and advising tool, one among several, referred to as Starfish. I should point out that none of these tools are just simple, single-purpose kinds of tools. It's like grafting Swiss Army knives onto a Swiss Army knife. So they have multiple capabilities and they have multiple integration points with each other and with the core PeopleSoft student system that they live in terms of the ecosystem. I wanted to thank my team members who were listed here on this slide, and particularly call out the more than 50 subject matter experts that are involved with this overall project from the 4 universities, derived from primarily the enrollment management offices on each. The primary target, consistent with the strategic directions that were articulated this morning, relate to automation, speeding, and streamlining admissions. So our first major effort is with the CRM Solution Slate. As a result of our work, what we will have very shortly is a comprehensive current state analysis of all of the data integrations, the data flows, the information systems that are involved, and an architectural map. And we're using outside consultants together with the experts within the enrollment management shops on each campus to come up with best practices that can be then incorporated into a single solution. For the CRM solution, we hope to have that in place by early fall this semester. And we're doing the same approach in terms of data management with learning management and student retention and advising tools. In the midst of that, other student-specific enhancements have been made. And I should also let people know that the campuses have been particularly gracious with their allowance of their staff to work on these projects while they are simultaneously working on campus-specific consulting engagements to do local changes that will make their near-term performance better in terms of student enrollment and retention. But while we were working on this, we were also involved from a strictly IT standpoint on some back-end work that represents significant improvements in terms of the overall systems supporting students. We did a major upgrade of the core PeopleSoft system over spring break this past spring. It was probably the single largest version upgrade that we've done to the ERP systems in the last 7 or 8 years. We implemented a new e-commerce solution. It just went live this month, as a matter of fact, replacing a dated system with poorer performance. And we also replaced the student information system document management solution to move away from a proprietary solution to one that allows the generation and distribution of portable documents. The IT administrative transformation has also been keeping us relatively busy. The outcome of the engagements that we had with PwC last fall were summarized in this couple of sentences that essentially the university's overall performance would be enhanced by a more nimble, cost-effective, and efficient IT support organization. So we are in the process, beginning last fall, late, of shifting from a siloed IT structure on each campus to one that is a unified IT organization across the entirety of the system. So we took the findings derived from the engagement with PwC and from the activity analysis that they assisted us with and the collaborative design sessions that we had with both academic and are using those as guidelines. I should point out you've been hearing about administrative transformation in HR and finance as well. We are fundamentally different based upon the activity analysis in the IT space because IT was largely consolidated at the level of each campus prior, based on previous administrative direction. So we began in late 2018 to start the actual implementation of this following the distribution of the executive order that President Choi issued last year, and started in late November, early December to actually begin the work to transform IT across the system. So in terms of just some context of what we're talking about, here's the head count FTE count of folks across the different universities and the system as of the beginning of the calendar year. And the FY19 total budget for that group of IT organizations is a little more than $100 million. We have got together, and the work is being done by a very talented group of people who have obviously understood the importance of what we're trying to do and have immediately joined together as teams to move us to a better place as quickly as we can. I'm going to mention finance at first because I'm going to set it aside for a little bit. As you understand, each of the universities has been going through their own finance, budgeting, planning, strategic initiatives related to how they do financing on each campus. So we have not been able to crack all of the nuts that are going to have to be cracked in order to solve the overall IT funding issue. Historically, each of the IT organizations on the campuses was funded by a local model that had been developed over years. Different sources of funding, different means by which costs are recovered or not recovered. So we have done initial inventory of things in the finance space and have been working consistently with the finance leadership to understand that at a future date, we're going to have to take this on as a second part of the overall transformation process. So the CIOs from all four of the universities got together, and we identified things that we could accomplish. I think I mentioned it on the previous slide. Minimizing impact to the end users that we support and making early wins to build a solid foundation for both the technical infrastructure and also the relationships that are going to need to be there and durable for the organization to thrive going forward. And these are the areas we picked. Governance, we immediately agreed upon the use of common tools as we did the transformation work. And then we broke down the work that we could immediately start with in areas that are kind of deep in the technology stack. Infrastructure and architecture, networking, apps development, information security, and given the strategic initiatives around research computing support. So I'm going to list a couple of projects. I need to point out, I mentioned the teamwork that's being displayed by the groups that are working on this. They're getting together between 2 and 4 hours a week, meeting on these projects, coming together, putting together recommendations, vetting proposals, making requests for assistance and direction. So, and they're doing this while maintaining operational continuity on their individual campus to support what's currently in place. And they're also doing it without any additional resources. So they're spending time, effort, energy, committed to making these changes work and to make them stick. I'll mention a little bit more about Active Directory consolidation in a minute. This is kind of a foundational change that we're making. But other projects in the infrastructure space include common storage strategies, both on-premise and cloud, how we can minimize our data center space utilization and achieve greater efficiencies, networking strategic plans to standardize on single sources of support from our vendors. And we have been doing it for years, but we have doubled down on making sure that we combine our collective purchases so as to get the greatest amount of aggregate discount. Network tools standardization, and we're moving resources that have currently or previously been distributed across multiple sites and putting them in single places wherever that's possible. And I call out one here. The SharePoint farm that used to be housed here is effective the end of this month. It'll be hosted out of St. Louis. And we've been able to accomplish that because of the team. We've been able to accomplish that without disruption of work. So here's something that's really foundational and I think represents a paradigm shift. I know this looks like a busy slide, and it is, and if you gathered that it was busy, then you got the point. This is our Active Directory domain structure. Active Directory is a system that's developed and distributed by Microsoft. Essentially what it represents, it's the identity management system for all of the people that use all of our technologies. When it was first put in place more than 20 years ago, this is how it was done. We had a domain for each and every university, one for the hospital and one for the system itself, and then a couple of extras like UMAD, which is currently, or was until recently, empty, and this one over here, UMAC, which is used for archived accounts. These accounts not only relate to people, they also relate to resources, so it could be a schedulable room, a piece of equipment that can be checked out via email, anything that would be going into the common calendar. Every one of those represents an account in terms of the Active Directory structure. When we set it up, as I indicated, we set it up the way it's shown here, and the red lines represent a requirement that things that are in different domains in terms of their home, they have to be integrated and authenticated across those domains in order to use shared resources. So what we have done, that means whenever you buy a cloud solution, you have to make sure that it's talking correctly to each one of these things and between each other in order to make it work properly. The numbers of little boxes behind each one of those categories represents the physical number of servers that have to be in place in order to support that identity management operation. This is where we will be before the end of July. We have collapsed all of the former multiple domains, and we're moving all of those users into this one over here. This will continue to be the archived users, and we're holding off on doing any integration with the hospital domain pending some additional investigations that's currently ongoing. So this is going to be incredibly more cost effective. We'll save $300,000 alone in infrastructure, not counting staff time, not counting trouble tickets that have to be issued when you're trying to do things across the system. And we'll be able to do single points of integration with outside solutions that would currently have been impossible. Here's the progress we've made. These are the actual number of domains, or number of accounts, I'm sorry, that are present in each one of these. These are the numbers that have already been moved. This is the total number in that category, and that's our percentage completion. Actually, these numbers are dated because yesterday we moved 12,000 accounts from the students on the Columbia campus for fall semester as we've automated this. We will be done. We had promised to be done by the 1st of August. As I indicated, I think we're going to beat that date. And then we'll do bulk moves on all these down here, which are archived accounts. A couple of points that indicate the magnitude of what we're doing and the quality of the staff that's doing it. When we started talking to Microsoft Consulting about this, they said it'd take us 2 years. We will have done it in 4 months from the time that we got started. There was a lot of planning before that, but the actual moving is going to be done sometime between Memorial Day and the middle to end of July. We could have bought some tools from third-party vendors to help us with the assistance of migrating these accounts, but that would have cost us $750,000. We did it with our own staff and their skills. And they're working like maniacs to get this done and doing it right in a way that doesn't disrupt the end users that we ultimately support. Other things that are happening under IT transformation. We have our security groups. We've had a pre-existing system-wide security policy program for several years. Since we actually started working on this under the auspices of administrative transformation, we've just deployed a centralized phishing block. We've developed an approach to a centralized operations center for incident management. We've updated our server logging for forensics. We've standardized our approach to securing end-user machines with group policy across the security spectrum. And we're continuing to identify and deploy two-factor authentication for increased security to university assets. In the applications and development space, we've created 3 work groups, all of these representing subject matter experts from all 4 of the universities. Every one of these working groups and subcommittees are populated by people from all 4 campuses. Enterprise application, custom applications, and integrations. We are finalizing an inventory of all the applications that currently exist. We are deciding on standards of languages to use for programming and assisting with relevant Project Unify objectives. For example, some of the integrations with those other 3 categories of tools I mentioned earlier are now part and parcel of the transformation effort itself. And doing things that are newly emergent. The state has recently required a civics examination, so we're doing that with assistance of code that was originally developed at UMKC. On the research computing front, we have historically provided access to research computing resources across campus boundaries at no cost or no charge, at least. The recommendations coming from this group include the 4 items listed at the top: common use teaching cluster for student use, high-speed system research network and systems security, and a system shared cluster for high-performance computing. We have not acted on any of these pending the outcomes of the strategic research investments that are going to be announced here soon as it relates to the strategic initiative funding that President Choi announced last year. And I am meeting with Mark McIntosh to plan for what will come when we start deploying those resources across the system. I do want to call out a grant that we recently received in the last couple of weeks. Tim Middlecoop, who operates research computing oversight here in Columbia, was the principal investigator on a $1.4 million NSF grant over 3 years. It's actually a consortial grant that spreads resources to higher education research institutions in Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska, and the Dakotas, as well as us, but Tim is the PI here at Mizzou. And it is specifically targeted at developing the next generation of research computing technical support people, because they're a different breed than what they were even a few years ago in terms of what they need to know and how they need to interact with faculty to provide the support they need. And it also has a focus on physical resource sharing across the institutional boundaries with those partner institutions. I have just two more slides and then I'll be quiet. In addition to the other things that you saw, here are some, not incidental, but things that didn't go into those other buckets as well. So in addition to the other items I've already outlined, we now have a common IT ticketing system and knowledge base across the 4 University of Missouri campuses. We're extending it locally in this geography to become our change management tool, and we're also looking at other applications of this particular software. We've kind of kicked off a process to acquire an updated system for the advancement officers across the 4 universities. And we have cut our cost in part by going to a lower cost project management solution. As it relates to other things or other compacts like outreach and engagement, we procured and implemented a digital asset management system for communications and marketing, and have deployed a cloud-based web hosting solution that is available or will be available soon to all 4 universities, and we're doing migrations on websites now. In the academic space, we will have incorporated the MyVita faculty accomplishment data from the cloud into our local enterprise data warehouse. No determinations on reporting or not in that respect, but the ability for us to do manipulations of data locally is going to be present with us soon. In terms of policy and regulatory requirements, we put in a new student conduct Title IX management system in the spring, and we automated the version control systems that we use in PeopleSoft to push applications into production without having to consume a great deal of staff time. So that's what I had to present today. I'd be happy to take any questions or comments.
Curator Phillips?
So that's a lot and one wonderful summary of a lot of information, kind of like drinking out of a fire hose. You said at one point that the groups that have been meeting from the campuses are doing it themselves without outside assistance. Is PwC at all being accessed because they did the analysis that made some of the recommendations that you're moving forward, even though it wasn't part of their initial retention? They do probably have insight that you've been relying on. Are they accessible, or do you plan on using them?
We don't have any current plans to call them in for our re-engagement. We find that the reports that they provided, they did a tremendous amount of data gathering. So we are using those reports for their intended purpose. So when we look at governance structures and how to organize org charts across the system, we have in hand recommendations that they provided to us and alternatives to consider. So we've had plenty to do without needing to get additional consulting support for the efforts that we've undertaken over the past several months.
And I think it's in our packets that you'll soon be retiring.
Yes, sir.
Am I right about that? Which we've grown up with you, I think, as a university, and you know where all the bodies are hidden, but all the successes are. Will you be available for consulting to carry on? I trust you and Moon have talked about this.
Well, he's busy, I'm busy. We haven't talked about that specifically, but the short answer is yes. I'm not intending to relocate, and whatever I could do to help the university that helped me get started would be something I would greatly enjoy.
A few years ago, before the PwC analysis, I think there was some thought that yes, we needed upgrades, maybe even consolidation, but that it would be very costly. And so can you speak to all of the changes that are already underway? How much is going to cost to change? And in the future, will it result in more efficiencies so that the conversion will be behind us at some point and that we'll actually have cost savings, and maybe with 5G in the not too distant future, more speed of analysis and analytics?
We will have some cost savings in specific areas, in specific technology areas. In general, technology is not going to cost less. The opportunity that we have is to better use the skill sets that we already have to greater advantage. to derive more value out of the people that we already own and the tools that we use. You do that by automating. You do that by consolidating to single solutions, which are less time-consuming and costly to maintain and upgrade. And we have a lot to do still in that space before we need to worry about doing additional consulting or outside engagements, in my estimation. That may not be the view of the rest of the leadership.
Final question. When you talked about the 4 campuses having meetings 2 or 4 hours a week, what about EMU Health? They have specialized computing needs and also additional concerns about information integrity. Are they going to be consolidated in? And what do other universities that have the benefit of having their own health system, do they keep it separate, or is it merged into the overall university system?
In most public research institutions, it's a segregated group because it's specialized work. And in our particular case, obviously, the IT support function is actually not university employees. It's an outsourced solution that's provided by our partner, Cerner. So we keep them informed as to what we do. We do provide some support, like networking connectivity, to the hospital operations as a whole. But in terms of the day-to-day operations and support, that's something that is taken care of within the confines of EMU Healthcare. As I indicated, they are interested in what we have done or about to finish as it relates to things like Active Directory consolidation. They're not certain that they don't want to go ahead and join us in that effort, but we don't know enough yet to make a determination as to whether it would be the appropriate step forward.
I think those of us that have seen your work in recent years are appreciative of your mastery of the technology and impressed by your presentation today. And I think we ought to. Sure, we'll have an opportunity when we honor you, but I've really grown to appreciate what you've been able to do here.
Thank you. That's very kind.
That's great. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah, Gary, I have a question. Projects like Active Directory consolidation obviously can save funds in terms of infrastructure costs and make the system more efficient. But can you talk about how effective that type of work would be in increasing security of our IT system?
Well, anytime you can reduce the number of interchange points, reduce the overall, the way the information security people talk about it, you try to reduce the surface of the overall technology infrastructure. So you have fewer connecting points, fewer physical devices. You substantively reduce the overall target surface for bad actors who are trying to penetrate our systems. Additionally, by a lot of this, we will have been able to automate a great deal, so we will have freed up a tremendous amount of staff time that is normally required just to maintain all of these connections and making sure, troubleshooting it when something goes bad. So to simplify the environment, to consolidate to single solutions, that's where you get the value of your staff to a greater extent than you can when it's complex like it is now.
Anything else?
Well, one final question. Based on your knowledge of the services that we've been using, especially for student information services, the Slate and the Starfish and Canvas, and having had Parthenon in, so you've been a part of those discussions, are you satisfied that those are the state-of-the-art that we should be involved in? And I'll tack onto that the PeopleSoft issue. Are we where we need to be in terms of those particular services?
The 3 products that have been selected to support retention, LMS, and CRM for the Slate, Starfish, and Canvas, those are market leaders in their particular sector. You can get another opinion from Matt Gunkel, who's just joined us. He knows the situation as it exists in Indiana, but I would think he would agree that those are market leaders. In terms of PeopleSoft, We still have work to do to standardize to a single instance of student at some point in the future, but the upgrade that we did in March gives us guaranteed support and maintenance through 2027, so we have time to support that system and figure out our longer-term strategy. The information I get from my AAU CIO peers who have recently gone through the pain of migrating from a mainframe, PeopleSoft is an appropriate solution for us, given what we have to do, the complexity of the system as a whole, and the kind of work that we need to get out of that tool.
Thanks, Ken.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gary. I now have a couple action items, but I'm going to move to the podium. Couple action items, two resolutions to two gentlemen that will be leaving us, and we're sad to see them go. But first one, whereas Kevin G. McDonald has served with distinction as a first System Chief Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer from June 1st, 2016, and duly as MU Vice Chancellor for Inclusion, Diversity, and Equity from July 1st, 2017 until July 26th, 2019. And whereas he laid the foundation of the inclusive excellence framework across the system in all four institutions, and as a means to move the university towards achieving their diversity and inclusion goals. Whereas he created, developed, and implemented a leadership development and mentoring initiative aimed at improving access and academic outcomes for underrepresented high school students. The initiative is currently a partnership with public school districts in Columbia, Kansas City, and Jefferson City, Missouri. Whereas he is a dedicated leader who advocates for honesty, transparency, and collaboration, and seeks opportunities to bring others together for innovative projects that serve members of our community, our university community, and others. Whereas President Moon Choi states, we are grateful for Dr. McDonald's dedication to our faculty, students, and staff in the pursuit of inclusive excellence. Dr. McDonald helped establish a framework and structure that we will continue to build upon as inclusion remains among our highest priorities. Whereas Chancellor Alex Cartwright states, the impact Dr. McDonald has had on Missouri flagship campus truly sets a tone for what it means to pursue inclusive excellence and grow together. We pledge to continue to carry out this important work for the benefit of our campus community. And whereas Kevin is a passionate, inspiring, and generous advocate, mentor, and champion to countless students, faculty, and staff, and in everything he does, he inspires and empowers everyone to manifest their full potential. And whereas to him, the entire University of Missouri family repeats Kevin's favorite phrase, thanks a million. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Curators, on behalf of the students, faculty, staff, and alumni of the University of Missouri, and on behalf of the citizens of the state of Missouri, does hereby adopt this resolution in appreciation of the dedicated and devoted service of Kevin G. McDonald, and be it further resolved that the Secretary of the Board of Curators cause this resolution to be spread upon the minutes of this meeting, and a duly inscribed copy thereof be furnished to Kevin G. McDonald. I need a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I'm not even asking for opposed. Kevin?
Thank you, Chairperson Sunvold. This means a lot. Thank you very much to the board, to everyone assembled today. I want to thank former President Mike Middleton for hiring me. I really appreciate the opportunity to serve this community. I want to thank President Moon Choi for allowing me to stay permanently in this dual capacity and serving the MU community. I need to thank my wife, who is staunchly committed to her work in the School of Medicine, and so for her to come and break away to be here is like the lunar eclipse. Mark it down, you'll probably never see this again. So I'm so appreciative that she is here. She has been unwavering in her support when others said this opportunity would be a career killer. She saw something like I did in this community that suggested we needed to be here and work arm in arm with them to move this work forward. I am so impressed with my members of my division who are here. Our division is now talked about with the likes of Michigan and UC Berkeley and UT Austin. I would rank them with some of the top divisions in this work in the nation. And so I'm grateful. Anything that we've done because of the collaborative spirit that they bring to this work. But maybe most importantly, I'm grateful for the faculty, the staff, the students, the colleagues that I work with every day, the alumni, the local community members throughout the University of Missouri system that really believed in what we were trying to accomplish, gave me unwavering support, and really worked collaboratively to move this work forward. I am starting a new chapter, but I will forever be grateful and cherish the time that I've had here, so thank you. And thanks a million for that reference. This is hard work. I think this is a fantastic foundation that's been laid here, and I have the utmost confidence that you all will continue to build on this work and move it forward. Thank you.
University of Virginia, correct?
Yes.
The Wahoos will be lucky to have you there.
There's not that many of us who were here when Kevin decided to come, and it was not an easy time to come, and he came and he faced it with courage and dignity. He's made a tremendous difference. There are things that are not in that resolution. The scholarship program that was put in place with Chancellor Cartwright and Dr. Choi, which I think has been such a tremendous success in our enrollment, actually was probably the original brainchild of Dr. McDonald. I mean, he's made a tremendous difference to this institution.
Thank you, Curator Stillman. Next one up, and Curator Phillips alluded to this when Gary Allen was up here, is the fact that he'll be leaving. And the resolution, again, I will highlight some of the areas, but there's quite a few. Whereas Gary K. Allen has served with distinction as Vice President of Information and Technology and the University of Missouri Columbia Chief Information Officer from July 1st, 2006 until July 1st, 2019. And whereas Dr. Allen has given over 32 years of service to the University of Missouri system and MU, since being hired as a faculty member in the College of Veterinary Medicine in 1987, he served as an NIH Fellow in the School of Medicine, Medical Informatics Group, was the Director of IT for the College of Veterinary Medicine, leading the IT consolidation within the college, and served as Director of Advanced Computing Environments of Information, Access, and Technology Services. And whereas Gary pioneered the dual UM-MU reporting and led the merger of the UM system and MU IT departments into a combined division of IT for extraordinary cost savings and elimination of duplications, and recently established the foundation for unification of IT organizations across the entirety of UM systems, including MU, UMSL, UMKC, and Missouri S&T. And whereas he established the UM Strategic Project Management Office, encouraging the adoption and use of project management best practices, and whereas, among his many accomplishments, he co-founded the UM Bioinformatics Consortium in 2001 and served as its executive director, and was a founder and served continuously on the executive committee of the Great Plains Network, the first regional connector of Internet to and nonprofit consortium aggregating networks through connections and advocating for research on behalf of universities and community innovators across the Midwest and Great Plains region. Whereas President Moon Choi states, Dr. Allen helped transform our IT services and made considerable progress towards unifying our 4 universities by upgrading our technology infrastructure. His remarkable achievements are only overshadowed by the incredible kindness and humility noted by all who work with him. Dr. Allen will be deeply missed by our community, and we wish him true happiness in retirement. Whereas Chancellor Alex Cartwright states, IT management at a flagship research institution is no small feat. We cannot thank Dr. Allen enough for his years of service, his vision, and his support of each of MU's critical missions. And whereas he displayed a true love of the job that he does, which shows in the enthusiasm he displays, the effort he puts into every project he manages, and acknowledge he shares with others. His colleagues say, he reminded us often and appropriately that information technology is about people, not technology. And he focused collaboration through compromise, striving to find the third way. And whereas Gary taught his team that starbursts and after-dinner mints can, in fact, serve as a lunch. And he single-handedly suppressed the availability of Diet Coke within Columbia and surrounding communities. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Curators, on behalf of the students, faculty, staff, and alumni of the University of Missouri, and on behalf of the citizens of the state of Missouri, does hereby adopt this resolution in appreciation of the dedicated and devoted service of Gary K. Allen. And be it further resolved that the Secretary of the Board of Curators cause this resolution to be spread among the minutes of this meeting, and a duly inscribed copy thereof be furnished to Gary K. Allen. I need a motion and a second that the resolution be approved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good enough right there. Gary Allen.
I'm going to make this brief. People that know me well know that I don't like to be in the spotlight or the limelight, and know that I don't like to give long speeches, so you don't have to worry about that either. I need to thank my family for their tolerance and support over my career. I need to thank this institution personally for the opportunities that gave me to come here, to go to school here, to get a degree here, to join the faculty, to do research and teach, and then to evolve. And I had a lot of help from a lot of friends and colleagues who provided mentoring and advice, who allowed me to do lifelong learning. And I appreciate that. And the leadership that has been absolutely steadfast during my tenure here, so appreciate that as well. And then finally, and probably most especially, I want to thank my staff that I've had the privilege to work with over the years. They are not only gifted in terms of their technical expertise, but they are absolutely amazing in terms of their selfless support and assistance that they provide to the greater good that this place provides to the general public. So thank you for the opportunity to work with you. It's been a great pleasure.
Thank you. Let me add my appreciation as well to both Kevin and Gary. You've left a lasting legacy through your dedication and hard work. We're going to miss you. We wish you the best of success in the next phase of your life. So thank you again. Next, we have some students who are going to speak to us about their very innovative research. It's been part of our practice to have students present during the lunchtime period, and that is normally organized by the Faculty Senate. As you know, when we had the Board of Curators meeting in February, we had an ice storm, and because of that, we had to cancel the lunch meeting. This presentation is organized by Dr. Clark Peters, who is the chair of the Faculty Council at Mizzou, and we have 3 students who are going to be speaking with us. The first student is Al Wilsey. It is a 5th-year philosophy doctoral candidate who studies authority and power of speakers. He is starting his 2nd term as the president of the Graduate Professional Council, and he is being advised by Dr. Horisk, and he's going to talk to you about his research. So, Al, come on up.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. I think I'm a little bit taller than Moon Choi. one thing that I understand is I have a very brief amount of time, and I've been here this will be the start of my 9th year, so I've done a lot of things. Just wanted to give you a highlight of some of the things I've done in my adventure here at the University of Missouri. When I was an undergraduate student, I was a mathematics major, and now I study speech and power and authority. I feel like that journey has been quite interesting. And now I continue to do that as a PhD student in philosophy. Along my way here, I was driven to study what I was actively pursuing. I was an active student member in different social events and student government. And I worked in residential life, and I ended up going into student government. I worked in the math department for a little bit of time, actually, and now I work in philosophy. I actually am teaching an online class at the moment of medical ethics, which is a very rewarding experience, getting to entertain ideas for students who have never asked some of the biggest ethical dilemmas that would be very important for them to consider in their medical field. For instance, just this last week and this current week, I was asking them to consider, if they were a medical professional, which many of those students will be, whether people should learn how to lie to their patients. There are some people who say we should learn how to tell our patients as little as possible to save them pain, which might be unnecessary. And there are many others who say, no, we have to tell them the truth, it's an imperative. And what's really interesting is to see all the student perspectives, especially the comments of, I've never considered these questions before, and I really need to. This week we were talking about medical confidentiality. As many of you know, medicine is growing, and there's now teams of people who help a patient with any of their ailments. And it's surprising how many people have never considered, when you tell your doctor something, just how many others get to know that fact about yourself. Being able to ask these questions and entertain what we should do as medical professionals has been really interesting in my experience as a teacher. And this also relates to my research. As was mentioned, I study speech acts. I study opportunities for people to do certain performances in their speech and whether or not those performances are wrongly taken from them. So when we talk about telling the truth, that's a statement. When we talk about lying, that's also something that you can do in your words. Giving orders is another type of speech act that we can look at. And one thing that I'm interested in is when some people should be able to give orders, but they can't, for whatever wrong reason there is. So as a part of that, I study authority and power. And authority is roughly that thing, that quality of a speaker which allows their utterances to infringe the autonomy of others justly. Whereas some people can say, give me your wallet. It's not something you have to do. Whereas if a police officer comes by and says, I need to see your license and insurance, it's something that you need to do. One speaks with authority, whereas a mugger might not. So that's just a brief overview of who I am and what I do here at the University of Missouri. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have of me and anything like that.
Any questions for Al? Al, what do you plan to do after you graduate?
Well, if I had my way, I'd write fiction, but most likely I'm going to go into something in student affairs. I'm also actively pursuing finding a teaching position somewhere, but right now the philosophy market's pretty hard, so I'm keeping my eyes open.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Next up, we have Nikita Coombs, who's a fourth-year doctoral student in school psychology, and she is working on some very interesting fields of social justice and education. Her advisor is Dr. Wendy Ranke, and her faculty sponsor is Dean Catherine Cheval. Nikita is Jamaican-born and raised, and came to the United States. And she is a 5-time NCAA All-American. So, Nikita.
So I have a lot of slides, but we get very short time, so I'll go fast. But you can ask me questions after. So my social justice project is called Right on Race. And it basically pairs personal journaling with discussions. So I had students, staff, and faculty meet once a month, and they were taught skills on how to have difficult discussions, especially about race. I have this. So basically, we are expected to know how to have these conversations, but we're never really taught about how to do this. And with some of the social climate and the interactions I've had in my class, I felt like it was a need that we were actively practicing how to have these conversations in an effort to improve student-teacher relationships, improve school climate, improve cultural competence, things like that. So I wanted to provide a safe space to have those conversations along with people who were experts in those fields to facilitate these conversations. So basically how the project layout was, I emailed the chancellor and I'm like, I have an idea. I'm just gonna shoot to the top. And he was like, well, this is the person that can help you. So he sent me towards the ID office with Vice Chancellor McDonald, and I don't think he's here. But he sent me where I could get more help. And then I also sent an email to my dean and explained, and she also provided support. So I just blast out emails. I'm like, this is my idea. I'm gonna have food and T-shirts. So if you're interested, you can join. And then it had all of the layout, and it was a semester long. So each month was a different theme, and under each theme, there were different skills that they were gonna learn. And then they got journals. So basically, I would send them an idea or something that was in the news and have them write about it, and when we meet, we discuss it. So the topics were treating identity as assets, building empathy and interdependence, using inclusion as a universal responsibility, continuous inquiry, and practices that create belonging. So those were the themes for each month, and then the skills under those themes were what we focused on. The constructs that I measured were student-teacher relationships, school climate, self-advocacy skills, all of those, and they were by self-report. So these were like the pre-assessment data. So they will ask questions like, what's your level of cultural competency? Do you think about the impact of race? Do you think about race-related conflict? And, you can see the answers, but I'm gonna go fast. We asked them about the school climate. Do you think Mizzou has a climate where people from different backgrounds are getting along? Do you feel like you belong here? Do you feel like you are able to advocate for yourself, whether it's in your classes or in the community? And then after the project is ended, they were asked questions like, do you think the skills that you learn promoted inclusion and community problem solving and collaborative learning? And these were the answers. So basically, overall, it was very successful. And that was throughout the spring semester. So I plan to do it again this coming fall and next semester. So yeah. Any questions? I know that was really fast and a lot of stuff.
Can I ask a question? Where do you see the use of the end result of your research? How do you want to use that?
So I would like to have a manual that is that has all the components, but enough flexibility where it can be used in maybe a college department or a classroom or school-wide. So if there's a problem where they need to be an improvement with cultural competence, I would like this to be kind of like an outline of how you can do that. And I'm also thinking I'm also going to use it with pre-service teachers, meaning teachers that are here and will graduate soon, in an effort to teach them cultural competence before they're in the classrooms. Because usually when you're looking at like racial disparities or things like that, it's always responsive. So I want to do it preventatively before they're in the classroom. So teaching them how to interact with their diverse classroom and their students.
Can you tell from your research how easily it is to modify either behaviors or attitudes? Have you found it easy with the right manual or training, or can you tell that from your?
I wouldn't say easy, but I would say if you use the right, depending on the techniques you use, it can be very effective. And I found the journaling piece to be a big one because it provided a lot of personal reflection, and it was very private. They didn't have to share what they wrote. So when it was time to have the discussions, they were very open about, like, this is where I'm lacking and these are my strengths, kind of a thing.
What do you plan to do after you graduate?
I'm thinking teaching faculty position and then continuing doing projects like these. So maybe like a consulting firm and going around and teaching people about cultural competence.
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Nikita, just keep shooting for the top. I think that's a good approach, so keep doing it. So we've heard from 2 doctoral students, and the next student is an undergraduate. His name is Jesus Oropeza. He'll be a sophomore in finance in the School of Business. And Jesus is the winner of the Chancellor's Excellent Award for Outstanding Young Tiger. And he demonstrated his leadership in many organizations, including the Mizzou Investment Group, the Men's Choir, Heartland Scholars Academy, and the Vasey Academy. So please welcome Jesus.
Good evening. My name is Jesus Oropeza, and I'm here to speak on behalf of the inaugural class of the Heartland Scholars. Coming to Mizzou was a challenge. For me, I'm not only the first in my family to go to college, but I'm the first in my family to advance beyond the 9th grade. I'm from a family of underachievers and drug addicts. Not once has anyone pushed me to achieve anything, and honestly, up until this point, I've just been winging it. That is until now. And it is because of the Heartland Scholars that I'm no longer winging it. But it wasn't easy. Our communities are comprised of hardworking people who struggle to make ends meet. We see around us meth labs and high dropout rates among our peers. Many of our classmates did not go on to a 4-year college, let alone a large university. Many of our peers lacked hope for a better life, and those that had hope didn't have a way out. Some of our parents, they were unable to fulfill their dreams, so we're trying to do so for them by going to college. We all knew at a young age we could do more and be more. We are trying to beat the odds, and we refuse to be defined by the things that surrounded us growing up or the things that we experienced. But we didn't have anyone helping us navigate our way here. Many of us didn't know anyone else who'd gone to college. Our families couldn't guide us on what questions to ask when applying to college, and we didn't even know how to apply. We wanted to get to college. We just didn't know how to get there. But we figured it out, got accepted to Mizzou, and that was almost even more terrifying. We're terrified of disappointing all of those people in our hometowns who are cheering us on but have no idea how hard it is to be the first person in your family to go to college. We are terrified of how we are going to pay for this. We're scared we can't cut it, academically or financially. We've found community in Heartland Scholars. Without it, we would have no safety net. We would have no one from a similar background. We would have no one. Some of these classrooms are larger than our entire schools. And it's honestly amazing. They're helping us get to that next step, a program that did not exist until this year. Thanks to it, we have a lot of firsts. First laptop, first suit, first formal event, and we all know one thing. We have one chance and only one chance to change the trajectory of our lives and the lives of those for the generations that will come after us. It's not an option to fail. We are determined, very determined to make it. Unlike those from our hometown, we now have a way out and we have hope. We hope for the ability to provide for our families and siblings, to be a role model for students of similar backgrounds, to buy a car, and to even potentially own a home. The Heartland Scholars has provided us the support we need. Personally, I would have dropped out my first semester had it not been for this program, and without the Missouri land grant, I wouldn't even left my town. The thought of coming to a school that cost more per year than my family of four's annual income was something I refused to think about. But most of all, we are grateful. Grateful for the opportunity that Mizzou has provided us, and because of the generosity of the Engleharts, we now have a safe place at Mizzou that we can be our authentic selves and feel supported. Thank you. After I graduate, I've already got my job lined up. I'll be working for a printing company, Walsworth Publishing, and I'm doing a side business in real estate.
Thank you. Jesus, that was very powerful. Thank you very much. I think if you think back to the presentations made by the students earlier today, this morning, and these three students, you understand why we are all very excited to work at this university, to provide access and opportunity to outstanding students who can become role models in their own right after they graduate is very, very fulfilling. So thank you. Let's thank them again. All right. So I do want to thank Clark Peters, the Faculty Council Chair, for organizing this, and I want to thank faculty councils in general for supporting the work of research and experiential learning. So Clark, thank you very much.
And real quick, thanks
Hey.
to the Staff Advisory Council for letting us steal a few minutes to allow our students who were scheduled to speak in February to speak today.
Very good. Thank you.
Next item. Looks like the good and welfare of the board. Anybody have anything? President Choi may have something.
Yes. During our April board meeting at Rolla, we formally recognized Interim Chancellor Christopher Maples for his outstanding contributions to that campus. This will be his last meeting, last Board of Curators meeting, but I want him to stand up and for all of us to thank him for his 2 years of dedicated service in bringing back collegiality, focus on excellence, and accomplishing a great deal during that period. So, Chancellor Maples, thank you and best wishes.
Anything else? If not, I need a motion and a second to move into executive session.
So moved. Second?
Cindy, roll call, please.
Curator Burnsick? Yes. Curator Chapman? Curator Farmer?
Yes.
Curator Graham?
Yes.
Curator Lehman?
Yes.
Curator Phillips?
Yes.
Curator Snowden?
Yes.
Curator Steelman?
Yes.
Curator Zumbold?
Yes.
All votes in favor.
So we will move to executive session. I think President Choi and I have a press conference. See you soon.